that they quickly fled through the walls, but one female ghost remained, grumbling in place. However, the witch's target was precisely to capture her. The female ghost realized that something was wrong, turned around, and immediately ran away. The witch pursued her with a staff, but the bystanders couldn't see the ghost and thought the witch was crazy, so they rushed to intervene. The female ghost took advantage of the chaos and ran outside, but the witch continued to chase her. The female ghost helplessly boarded a bus, thinking she had lost the witch. However, the witch unexpectedly took a taxi and followed her to a mall. The female ghost surveyed the area and found a girl who was weak and immediately possessed her body to hide. The witch searched high and low but failed to find her, but then a man walked by, and the female ghost was immediately expelled from the girl's body. She quickly possessed her again but was still expelled. Soon, the witch found her and grabbed her hair tightly. However, the witch had no choice but to do this. It turned out that Scarlet was a mischievous virgin ghost who died unexpectedly 3 years ago. She had never been in love during her lifetime and had died in vain, causing her to be unable to ascend to heaven. So she had to possess a woman's body to find true love with a man who had the right young energy. But this had caused many men to pass out, violating the laws of the heavens. The witch then took Scarlet back to her place. She kindly reminded her that if she possessed a body whose frequency matched hers, she might be locked in forever and unable to get out. Scarlet let her guard down when she saw someone caring about her, and the witch took the opportunity to comfort her and even gave her a bell necklace. With this, Scarlet could be found no matter where she possessed. However, Scarlet was not an easy target either. One day, when the witch was getting takeout, Scarlet secretly escaped from the room. The two resumed their chase on the street. They stumbled upon a girl who looked like she was about to fall asleep on the side of the road. Scarlet immediately possessed her without hesitation. When the witch caught up, the possessed girl looked at her with a twisted head and didn't move. Then a man pulled her onto his motorbike and took her to a restaurant. Scarlet thought she had escaped the witch's grasp, but suddenly she found that no matter how hard she tried, her soul couldn't leave the girl's body. And a female ghost was unexpectedly expelled from her body. Later, Diva, who had a high fever, was taken to the hospital. When she woke up, she was terrified to find that everything around her was unfamiliar, and the date was already the 17th, but she only remembered the 3rd. She recalled feeling a bit dizzy that day and had just dozed off at the bus stop. She was now in a state of panic and hurried back home, only to find that someone else had taken over her rented apartment since it had expired. In desperation, she called her grandmother and explained the situation. Upon hearing this, Diva was even more terrified to learn that spirits who had possessed a body once would be likely to covet their host's body again. This made her very uneasy, but she had to continue working with trepidation. As expected, Scarlet the ghost soon found Diva and kept calling her name, but Diva was too scared to face her and tried to ignore her by reciting a spell. Scarlet, however, continued to follow her and shout her name. Diva, already timid by nature, couldn't handle the situation and covered her ears, trying to escape from the restaurant. Her colleagues were puzzled by her behavior. Later, the restaurant was set to host an important group of foreign guests, and everyone was highly concerned about the occasion. The head chef Tom asked Diva to get a gun from the storeroom. However, when faced with Scarlet's relentless pursuit again, Diva stared at her and stammered, "I'm not easily bullied." Scarlet was delighted that someone could see her and immediately begged her to possess her once again. But when Scarlet heard this, she became nervous and shaky. Diva accidentally lit the goods on fire in her panic when she turned around with the gun. As the fire broke out, the head chef was still welcoming the guests. Suddenly, the alarm went off, and smoke started to fill the hall. The guests were frightened and quickly fled, and the important dinner was ruined. The chef was furious and demanded an explanation from Diva, who kept staring at the female ghost on the stairs but remained silent. Later, she cried her heart out in sorrow and frustration, and Scarlet wanted to comfort her. But Diva's pent-up emotions erupted, and she couldn't be consoled. At this moment, Scarlet seemed to ponder something and silently left Diva's side. Scarlet then returned to her home to see her father, but found him lying unconscious on the ground. She desperately tried to help him up, but as a ghost, she was unable to do that. Bullied and mistreated him in the past. He wanted to regain his dignity, so he replaced the dinner with expensive black truffle and ginseng, hung all his awards in the most prominent position, and even had the employees wear his own custom-made uniforms. When his classmates arrived, they were amazed by the grandeur and praised Angus for his success. He was satisfied with their flattery and compliments, but one of his former classmates, Fred, had not yet arrived. Hugh told Angus that Fred would be late due to overtime work. Angus remembered how Fred used to bully him during their school days because of his introverted and timid personality. Fred would deliberately throw a ball at his head and blame him for walking across the field. Angus had to apologize quietly every time he was hit. During high school, he endured Fred's bullying. Now, Angus had planned how to humiliate Fred at the dinner. Suddenly, Fred arrived, and Angus saw that he had become a greasy, overweight man. Everyone laughed and teased him about his belly. Seeing Fred's embarrassed expression, Angus felt extremely satisfied. As they reminisced about their school days, they avoided mentioning the times when they had bullied Angus. So, Angus brought up the time when Fred had taken his money to buy snacks, and said that now that he had money, he could treat Fred to whatever he wanted to eat. Fred felt embarrassed and wanted to leave soon after. Angus quickly followed him out the door and gave him money for a cab. He felt that this was his way of paying back for all the humiliation he had suffered. Fred mentioned that he was currently selling vacuum cleaners and asked Angus to help him find some customers because the economy was not good, and he was struggling to make sales. Angus could sense the hardships that Fred had faced, and he didn't feel any joy in seeing him in such a pitiful state. In fact, Angus felt a sense of loss. He realized that revenge was not the answer, and that he could have taken a different path. He regretted his actions, and he felt sorry for the pain and suffering that he had caused to others. At the dinner, Scarlett learned about Angus' past from his classmates. Later that night, Angus was sitting alone on the balcony feeling sad and regretful. Scarlett, who had come to understand everything, told Angus that he should forgive the past and focus on being happy. Angus finally realized that he had been holding onto his past for too long, and it was only weighing him down. He needed to let go to be truly free. Scarlett sensed the change in the mood and asked Angus to take a picture with her. Angus, who had let go of his anger towards Fred, called him to offer help in finding customers, but Fred refused. He had not forgotten what he had done to Angus in the past and found it hard to accept Angus' kindness now. Finally, Fred apologized for what he had done, and Angus felt relieved. To thank Scarlett for her guidance, Angus invited her to dinner. Scarlett felt that this was her chance to win over the charming Angus, but on their way to the restaurant, they encountered a witch.